Thank you so much again for joining us. We are so excited to have you. I mean, I follow your account. I'm a follower. I'm a fan.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, and I just appreciate you for even thinking of me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for people who don't know you, can you let them know who you are, what you do, and how can they be a part of your awesomeness?
Thank you. My name is Shelah Marie. I'm CEO and founder of the Curvy Curly Conscious Movement. And what I do is provide spaces of healing for women and digital in person. We usually do it through our retreats, but we put a pause on that because of the pandemic. And so for right now, you can find me spreading all of my thoughts all over socials, YouTube, Instagram. So that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about it because I'm a part of your movement. What inspired you to start the movement?
Well, the Curvy Curly Conscious Movement really came out of us. It came out of a selfish place, if that makes sense, or maybe a self-full place of where it was like a replication of the journey that I was going on by myself, where I woke up one day and I realized, like, I don't want to be defined by some of the things in my past. I don't want to be defined by some of my relationship with anxiety or having depression. And like, I want out of this. And so I went on this little journey and quest of reading books and starting yoga and finding meditation. And so CCC as a movement is really just that, but you don't have to do it alone. So if you're looking for, I'm interested in growing, you know what, I might be interested in letting go of some things or redefining some things. I'm thinking through religion or I'm thinking through a relationship. CCC provides skills and tools and provides really the best thing that we do is provide experiences for women to do that in a safe space. You don't have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah. I kind of want to go on a little bit or talk about a little bit what you said you were going through or experiencing anxiety and depression and things like that. How did you get to the point of recognizing it? Because as a therapist, right, sometimes people are coming in and don't even know what they're experiencing or what's going on. Like, how did you get to that point of recognizing like what it was? And did you go to therapy, talk therapy for that?
Yeah, so I have a non-Black mother, and so in our household, therapy was always very normalized. My mom wanted to, she was always like, I mean, she took me to therapy when I was in 8th grade because I wanted Black friends. It was very strange. Like, she was like, what's wrong with her? That's a whole nother story about that. But I will say that therapy wasn't a foreign concept to me as it is to many Black women or Black men, where it's like your family expects you not to do it. You know, the Black community doesn't talk about therapy like that. Or if they do, there's a stigma on it. I think the Black community thinks about therapy in the way that many people think about the dentist. Like, you don't go until something is really wrong. And then because you've waited so long, it's this whole traumatic experience. But if you would have did your 6-month checkups along the way, or you would have been tapping in, you might not have needed a big procedure. You don't need a root canal. You could have caught it at a filling. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So to me, I was like, I know that therapy, it was just always, was therapy accessible? That was the thing, because it's usually, unfortunately, the way our system is set up, therapy is not financially accessible to a lot of people. And then there's the whole thing of finding the right therapist for you, which can be very daunting. But I was lucky. I was at, when I started this journey of healing myself, I was at NYU, and NYU gave you like mental health, like certain amount of sessions or something, like 4 or whatever. And I just said, okay, I'll take it. And I just did that. And that's where I started.
Gotcha. I know for me, like you said, I fall into that category where it was not talked about in my household. Therapy wasn't talked about. I'm not sure if they would have frowned upon it, but it just wasn't even talked about. I don't think I was really introduced into it until I went to college, right? Because I studied psychology, sociology, went into the mental health field, and I'm like, oh, okay. But before, I'm watching my mother and my grandmother being the strong Black woman and teaching me
that's
bear it all, just bear it all. So I think that
we need to dismantle that mythology ASAP.
absolutely.
It can be strong, but for that to be an expectation, despite anything that's happening, is very harmful, I think.
Absolutely. So you went on this self journey. Okay, so you went to therapy and said, "Hey, I know I'm having some issues that I want to deal with, or whatever." And I've read several things that you discussed, and even following your journey, like I said, on social. But I know you are really big on self healing. How did you start that process?
I started it through going to yoga. I had found one of my roommates at the time had suggested yoga, and I just found like, oh my gosh, this was, I was just, I've had chronic sleep issues throughout my life because of the anxiety. And so this was like the only thing that could calm me down. I realized my body felt calmer and shavasana and like doing the poses. So yoga was one of the things. And then also meditation and reading were like a little dynamic duo for me. Those things in tandem really worked for me, because for me, I am a thinker. It is so important for me to make meaning of things. That's what I do. If you follow me on socials, that's really what I do. I'm always critiquing things and thinking through what I'm doing, what's happening socially, what's happening in the pop world, what's happening in TVs and film, TV and film. I'm very interested in that. Like for me, because of my entry point into all of this, I have a training formerly trained as an actress, which I'm not using except right now, but my lens is always, what's the narrative? Like, who are the characters? So I needed to think through like, where was my life? I like to position myself. And so I would read a lot, and then my meditations would be where I kind of surpass the logical brain. There's like only so much thinking you can do. I mean, really, that's why the yoga element was important too. There's really only so much healing that happens through thinking through that, though, like making meaning, logical, like talking about it. There's only so much. There's a whole component of healing that is trapped in your body, that, all your central nervous system. There's a whole element to that. So I feel like the meditation was very helpful for me because it was almost like beyond my mind. I just could let go there. And like, I don't know, I just felt that it was a break from the reality of my mind all the time. And that was one of the first ways I felt like I started to heal. I will say though, that some mental health professionals do caution people who have anxiety and or depression, at the beginning with meditation, because sometimes it can lead you to a spiral if you just get in there and start thinking about your own thoughts. So definitely, I feel like, see what's best for you. When I started meditation, I could only do 5 minutes with my eyes open. So it was a journey.
So a lot of people say that they can't get into it, or they try it and they try to do it for 30 minutes or hours because maybe they've seen someone else do it, or someone else and they're doing it. Like, how did you work your way up to doing it?
Well, I think the first thing that could be helpful is to reframe the way you think about meditation. Because if you feel like meditation is supposed to be this thing where you become a different person, or you sit down and you have no thoughts and you just enter this whole Zen space, and you feel like that's all it is, you might feel very unsuccessful. But to me, really, meditation for me was spending time with myself. Like, almost like I felt like my physical self spending time with my spiritual self. We pray a lot. Praying, I feel like, is asking. Meditation is listening. And so to me, it's just like, if you can conceptualize it as just time you are going to spend with yourself, and whatever that looks like is a win, you can release some of the expectations. So for example, when I first started, I would start with 5-minute sits. That is it. If I closed also they had to be open eye. If I closed my eyes, the thoughts would just start racing and it would be too much or whatever. If I tried to sit there for too long, and also to release the myth that you should stop thinking.
Yeah.
It's not true. Meditation is not to stop your thinking. We actually want you to be aware of your thinking. To me, that's the whole gift of meditation, is like, oh, I'm thinking about this again. It is actually to become friends with your thoughts. You don't want them to disappear completely. They are a part of what, helps you contribute to your experience here. And if you don't have any thoughts, you might not be alive. Right. So we want the thoughts. We just want you to be able to detach from them and be the watcher. So meditation is like, you're the blue. in the sky, and the clouds are the thoughts. And just like, oh, okay, I'm thinking of that again. And so that's the goal. It's not to stop thinking. I feel like that's the main thing that I hear is like, I can't stop thinking. And not that you should stop, but you should become, not should, but it's the idea to become detached from them. So when I started, I would do candle meditations, which was I would light a candle and place it about 6 feet in front of me at eye level. And I would just stare into the flame with a soft eye, not a hard eye, soft eye, and just follow the flame. 5 minutes. That's how it started. And then eventually I moved on from there. The next level to that for me was sitting on one side of the room and finding something across the room that was small to focus on and simply focusing on that for 5 minutes. That's it. Right there that's it. You're training yourself.
Yeah. Do you go through that in your meditation mixtape?
I don't go through those because those are silent meditations, really. I did more guided meditations, but I know I have addressed it somewhere. But they're not my guided meditations, but my guided meditations, they're available on all streaming platforms. My meditation mixtapes, I have one for beginners, and then I have one for children, K-5, and teens, which would be 6 to 12, grade 6 to 12. And so that would be a very good place to start if you're just starting and you need to be guided, and they're all very short. Especially, I've heard parents write me all the time about the ones for their teens and for their young ones, like, oh, they loved it, or we used it in a school, or they used it in a church. And so that can be very helpful too. Yeah. I will say this, my guided meditations are helpful, but there are other people who have done it better now. And so I think that those people are great too. Like if you're just starting out and you like guided meditations, you do not want to be in a silent meditation, I recommend Londrelle, which is Londrelle. Londrelle is an artist, and his meditations he has so many. He has like 5 or 6 albums, and they're just amazing. They're all spoken, and they're very short, between like 2 minutes up to 10 minutes. So if you just need it on your lunch break, you can listen to them in the car. And I think it's just, I love them. The writing in them is so beautiful and so uplifting, so affirming. And if you're having like a dull moment, like sometimes I just play those and they help.
I love that. Now, do you use that? Is that something that you do daily for your inner peace, or to kind of set intentions for the day or set the tone of the day?
I have to meditate almost every day. Like I should be doing it every day. Some days I miss, but I will say this, when I miss, the days are different. And when I skip a few days, my days are very different. The days that I meditate are so good. I often feel like my meditation practice, strange thing has happened. It's almost as if the detachment from thoughts has translated into my life. And so when I meditate, I can become more detached from my life in general, meaning the triggers. I'm not so close to my triggers where, in normal life, let's say somebody triggers you and say something, oh, why did they say that? Why'd she say that? I'm more so able to be the watcher of my own life. Like, oh, that's interesting. You're feeling some type of way about it. I am. I'm feeling some type of way, And so what I like from meditation is it helps me. It almost like, sometimes I think we live life like very much zoomed in. Mm-hmm. And for me, meditation gives me the perspective of zooming out and being like, okay, are those things really, really a big deal? Is it true? Are you really, really a failure? Really? Because of this one thing, and so I need to keep my meditation practice consistent so I maintain that level of that vantage point, I would say. Because otherwise, I feel like our personality selves, our ego selves I feel like they just roll like a tumbleweed down a hill, and they can take over. And before you know it, you're snapping at everybody, and, you're taking things personally, and things become this big deal. And not that it isn't. They are real things that are happening in our lives that have consequences and implications. However, for me, the ability to zoom out really saves me in terms of someone who has a history with anxiety and depression.
Yeah. Now, I think one thing, or maybe that I have heard sometimes we do Ask a Therapist Thursday, and we'll have like answer questions, different therapists answer questions. And one thing that I have heard or seen, just even with my clients, is sometimes they will mistake inner peace for boredom. How?
Oh, that just happened to me this week. Oh my God.
Talk about it.
So I just got done. I just finished filming a reality show, which I never thought I would do, which did not make sense to me. The whole guidance that I was getting, I was so like, why are we getting a yes on this again?
Right.
How are we doing this again? I don't quite get it, but okay. And so I'm very glad that I went through that experience. I feel like spiritually is a catalyst, so much shadow work for myself, so many things. However, it was a very traumatic experience for me. Like as somebody who is not used to being in environments like that, I'm an empath. I'm very sensitive. I'm very protective over my energy. I went from being basically in a house with my husband for a year and a half. There was a pandemic. We didn't see a lot of people. I went from completely having a bubble to being thrust in people in my house and this and that. And so there was a lot of, for me, it was a very, what I would say this is my nervous system was very heightened. I was in a nonstop state for I don't even know how many months it was, nonstop state of fight or flight, like where I felt my body felt that at any time, like, what's up? Like, it was a constant, like, you can't trust nobody, you can't, and that was so unhealthy for me. So then that I finished, and then I went back to my bubble where I am now. I was telling my therapist, I'm like, I'm feeling like just, gray. I don't know what it is. I feel gray. I don't feel, sometimes it just feels like the color was taken out of my world I don't know, nothing's wrong. It's just gray. Also, I did have a miscarriage while I was filming the show. So I didn't really get to grieve while it was just all happening. It was just so fast and so nonstop that when I was done, she was like, well, have you thought about the fact that your nervous system has been acclimated to being very aroused? And now that you're not aroused, this feels like boredom. Like you said, it feels like there's something wrong because your nervous system is telling you to even find problems right now. Because I got to be useful. Like I was useful. I was helpful. Okay, what next? What next? And it's like there is nothing, So it really took for me to analyze, like, is it boredom, or am I conditioned to traumatic environments? Like, am I just conditioned to that fight or flight response? Is my body just memorized? Has my body just memorized that? You know what I'm saying? Am I acting like, am I just acting it out? So when she said that, I did not think about it like that. And I said, oh, you're right. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. And maybe boredom is okay. It's a natural part of our human experience, right? Like, we live in a very stimulated society and world right now. I think we're more stimulated as humans than we've ever been, probably, with all of the technology and nonstop electricity and everything else. And so, yes, I think that when we're bored, we can ask ourselves, like, is it really boredom, or is my body just in a state of fight or flight? And we're like coming down and we don't know where to place that.
So how are you dealing with that then? Are you meditating more? Are you finding yourself doing more yoga, or more journaling, or more, active? Like, how are you dealing with that?
Yes. So during the traumatic experience, when I was going through the process of really feeling triggered every day, almost, I went back to the structure that I had set up to myself in the very beginning. When I first started, I was doing like I started with the 5 minutes, but after a while, that was like in my early college. So I would say it took me a few years before I could get to like 45-minute sits. But at the height, when I was having like suicidal ideations, I was doing 45 minutes, sometimes twice a day. And it wasn't out of, oh, I have to meditate. It was out of a necessity. I felt that if I didn't do these things, my mind was going to slip into a dark place and I wouldn't be able to pull myself out. So I started doing that again, the longer sits, and then also reincorporating meditation, yoga back into my life. I had just dropped it. I kind of like during the pandemic, I lost a little bit of motivation to do certain things. And I think that's okay. There's so much going on spiritually and energetically. It's like, so I felt that reincorporating that, like bringing me back to myself, reestablishing that mind body connection. And now what I do is I sit in, especially as Black women, I think this is across the board, but I do think it affects Black women in a specific way. We don't know how to sit after we've done something. Like we run a marathon and then we don't know how to sit and be like, how'd I feel?
Right.
Okay.
I did.
All right. You did it. Okay, good. Hey, congrats. Like, let's do a dinner. Like, you did good. And really sitting in like, you did that. Hey, how did it feel? What would you do different next time? And I felt that I was trying to rush into, all right, now I got to do this. Now I got to do this. And my therapist was reminding me, like, you are tired. You just did a lot. Like, sit. It's okay to sit. So after that experience was over, I realized, like, what do I need for self-care right now? And I realized I needed a lot of joy and I needed a lot of space. And that's something that I had criticized myself for a long time. It's like, I need space to process things. Like I can't always, maybe in my 20s, I'm in my 30s now. When I was in my 20s, I could constantly be around people all the time. And now I feel like, wait, I need space. I need space. Yeah. And you think about that, right? And I felt like I just needed some space to decide what was my next move. How do I go about healing? What things were brought up that maybe need to be shifted? And joy. I found like I really needed joy. I'm like, I'm gonna play The Sims. I haven't played The Sims in years. And I'm like, I just want to build a pretty house and just be, like that little form of escapism, which I think is okay. You know what I'm saying? Where before, I feel like we're living in a very difficult time right now. And so sometimes I feel like we do need to give ourselves a break.
Yeah.
So I would say after that, I just like had a break, sit down.
Yeah.
You're okay. Yeah.
I can totally identify with that because like you said, I'm in my 30s too. So in my 20s, I'm just like moving on to the next. And what's next? What's next? What's next? And just going. And really like probably more so not moving with intention or purpose, just going.
Right.
Now I definitely take more time to sit and say, okay, like, what's next for me and what's next for me that I want, not for what someone else wants for me, right?
Correct.
Like I'm going to be in the driver's seat of my life.
Exactly. I felt like that. Yeah. I look back at my 20s. I'm like, how are you doing all of that? Like, what? Like, you're right. I feel that now you're right. I feel like it's a kind of like a quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Like the moves that we're making at this stage in our life. Like, I don't need to be doing everything. I don't need to be everywhere, but the things that I do are meaningful and they give me a sense of purpose and they move me towards the person that I want to be.
Yes, I love that. Do you practice journaling at all?
I do. I actually have my journal here that I just published during the pandemic. I'm so proud.
Yes.
A Positive You. It's a personal growth journal for women. And I wrote this because I feel like we need little bite-sized things. Women are very busy. Women have a lot of things on their to-do list. So I know sometimes if I say, you should incorporate meditation into your life, it sounds like, another thing on my to-do. I got to work out. I got to feed the kids. I got to drop out women are already responsible for so many things. So I'm like, you know what could be useful and helpful right now? Bite size, just do one little prompt every day. The prompts take 5 minutes, so all of these prompts I'm extremely proud of, but I do journal. I used to journal more. What I journal now is I keep it all types of journal. Right now I'm doing my journals after my meditation. And if I have any dreams that stand out to me, because I'm a person, I have a very active dream life. Again, I need to make meaning of things. So sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, that's what it means. Okay, I got it. Oh, okay. Like, I have these revelations, but that might not be for everybody. But I love prompts like the ones that are in my journal, where after I do a meditation, I just sit there and I write for a little bit. How did that make me feel? Or what is one thing that I could do moving forward to love myself more? Just small things. And I don't put so much focus on it. Like, all right, now I have to do it. Don't make it another thing on your to-do list. Mm-hmm. Almost think of it. I'm like, do I want to make that analogy right now? I'm like, yeah. I almost think of it like an orgasm. Like you can't say force it. Go. Okay, now. All right. All right. Now.
Right.
Like you have to really let go. So I feel like just the fact of sitting there with the intention of writing for a few minutes and then going about your day, you never know how that revelation, you might be eating lunch, you might be in the middle of something, and then all of a sudden, oh, okay, that's what it was. And I think like leaving space for that.
Yeah.
But journaling can be very helpful to get the thoughts out of your mind and onto the paper.
Yeah. Like you said, I think having something bite-sized that you can already incorporate in your routine, because you're right. When you think of something that takes me away, like, oh my God, already have to do something else. You're like, I'm not going to do it. Right. But if you're already like making your morning coffee, tea, or whatever, your smoothie, it could be something like while you're waiting for that to heat up, or, getting that together. It's just added into your normal routine. And I love that you say that they are bite sized. I love that. What made you write that? Did someone was it a dream? Did you see it in a dream?
I mean, when I say I have journals on journals on journals on journals, like I am a person that don't save many things. I don't like clutter. I have every journal I've ever had from I think I have one from 3rd grade.
Wow.
I used to write in my diary what I did every day. I've always been a person who needed to process my thoughts by writing them out. And sometimes just the act of writing something out changes the way it feels to you, or it helps you get a new idea about it. So I said, I wanted to do something that was simple, and I wanted to do something that could replicate that process that had been helpful for me. In the same way, guided meditations were helpful. So I recorded my guided meditations. Journaling has been helpful for me as well. And so I thought, well, this would be a good supplement to that too. I feel like so many women could grow from this, and women send me screenshots of them doing the journal all the time, or videos. And it just really, to see it, something that was from a Google Doc, and just real 3rd dimensional reality in people's hands is very, very surreal sometimes. And I'm really happy. I'm so happy that they use it.
Right. I love it. Where can people get it from?
You can get it anywhere books are sold online.
Okay.
Amazon, Goodreads, anywhere. It's called The Positive You by Shelah Marie. And yeah, anywhere books are sold, you can find it.
Unfortunately, most of us live on Amazon, and it'll be here in 2 hours.
Boop, boop, boop. I know, we live in the Matrix.
Now, how did you get yourself to a point of self-acceptance? I see we have that all the time. I have so many clients that talk about that. I think that's a really, really big issue right now that we're dealing with. How was that journey for you?
Yes, I even have a prompt about that, about the difference between, and on my meditation mixtape, the difference between acceptance and approval. And sometimes we conflate those two ideas, where approval is a value judgment. Like, I approve of that behavior. I think it was good, or I think it was bad. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we reserve accepting ourselves until we approve of ourselves, when in reality, acceptance is just accepting that this is what is right now. Okay, I see that I made this specific choice. Okay, I decided to cuss my husband out today. And I still unconditionally love and accept myself. And so that sometimes I feel like we reserve love, we reserve kindness for ourselves, we reserve grace for ourselves until we get to the point where we approve of ourselves. And the truth is, you're never going to approve of yourself wholly. There's always going to be something that you could have, quote unquote, done better, or a mistake, or why did I do that? And that's really like a moving the goalpost. And really, it's like an oasis in the desert, if you think about it like that, that I will accept myself when I get here. I will accept myself when I get this relationship, or when I lose this weight, or when I get this money. And then you get there and you find another reason why you should reserve the love for yourself until you get to another point. And so I feel that it works in the reverse, whereas actually say, you know what, hey, I fell off my workout routine during quarantine or whatever. But you know what? I still unconditionally love and accept myself. I still honor the fact that this is an unprecedented time. And maybe I had to make a little bit more space for that than I thought. Hey, maybe I needed to relax a little. And so I love the idea, when we think about self-love, it's a very amorphous topic. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Is it a bubble bath? What do I do? Light a candle? Is it, you know what I'm saying? We don't know what does that look like. Show me what it looks like in my life. And I feel like acceptance is a great vehicle for self-love. You want to think about loving yourself more. What can you find to accept about yourself today? What can you find to accept about yourself and stop trying to change it and manipulate it and make it other than you are? Like, how can you send yourself a message today that you are worthy of giving and receiving love as you are exactly right now, all things considered? And I think that right there is profound for so many women.
Do you think that we have to have, in your personal opinion, do you think that we need to have self-acceptance to get to self-love?
I do.
Before we could grow?
You know what? You might be able to grow. Yeah, you always be growing, I guess. Yes. But I do, it's that's a good question.
Like, I just aired it on you.
I like it because I'm like thinking about it like, that's a very good question. I think you're always growing if you choose. But I do think there's going to be certain growth that you just cannot access if you don't accept yourself. Because you'll always be rejecting parts of who you are. And you'll always be separating yourself from the wholeness that you are. You know, we are whole. We came into this universe whole. We're always going to be whole. And like many of us, our lives is tracing back to the wholeness that we knew, where we feel fragmented and we feel like we're not good enough and we feel like we don't have this thing. And to me, acceptance is kind of a shortcut, is to remind yourself that even though you seemingly don't have those things or you're not quote unquote there yet, you still are going to accept yourself and love yourself. You're still going to mimic that experience of wholeness. And then I think it makes it so, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I love that. I love that.
Reverse engineering.
Right. If there's one thing that you wish you would have known about self-love, self-acceptance, self-growth, all of that, personal development, when you were younger, or that you want anybody to know that is just in a time of transition, what would that one thing be?
I think that the world at large, especially women, needs so much more kindness than they know. We need so much more kindness than we know. Like, we don't even, I sometimes I have to like delete socials off my phone and then I come back, and then because the world is such a harsh place for someone like me, I personally feel that so I consider myself highly sensitive. So if I'm around people, sometimes I can pick up on things, or I start to feel, why am I sad all of a sudden? I'm not sad. And so for me, I feel things, I feel like maybe at a stronger level than some people, but I think they affect us all. And many people just are in such a fast-paced life, or they don't have the luxury and time to give themselves space to even feel. And so many of us are feeling these things without acknowledging that we're feeling these things. And what I recognize often is how harsh we are with ourselves and the world is with us. Primarily, it starts though with ourselves, because nobody would, what Don Miguel Ruiz from the Four Agreements says, like, nobody will abuse you beyond the ability that you would first abuse yourself. And so many of us walk around with this harsh way of judging ourselves and being mean to ourselves and making these standards for ourselves and being mad. And I think that we need more kindness than we know at the same. So I feel like even the practice of that's one of my favorite meditations for loving kindness is metta, METTA, metta meditation. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free from danger, and may you live life with ease. Those are the 4 phrases of metta. And I think that reminding yourself that you deserve kindness and you can have kindness, and it's okay to be kind to yourself, even when you think you quote unquote shouldn't, is really life changing. I think that's the thing I wish I knew earlier, especially when I was in that, like we're talking about that grind phase. You know, you feeling all that pressure, you got to get it okay before 30, or you got to and all of this, and now we got socials, and now you can watch what everybody else is doing. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I felt that I was constantly comparing myself to people and never really taking a seat in like, hey, but look at all you did. that was hard. Look at where you are right now, you know? So kind of doing that sometimes I feel like it's really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I was just gonna ask you, is there an affirmation or something that you say or that you one that you go to all the time? But I think that was good. That's something that you should have on repeat all the time.
All the time. All the time. I am worthy of giving and receiving love exactly as I am right now.
I love it.
End of story.
When we say that all the time too, in therapy, like give yourself grace. I think that, I mean, it's right.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, because we're all just doing the best that we can in the moment, in this time of the world that it's crazy. We're all doing the best that we can. So yeah,
Yeah.
care for yourself and give yourself grace. Yeah. So what do you have going on? Like how can we support you? What's new for you? Or if not now, what do you have coming in the new year?
Well, I'm writing my second book right now. So
Okay.
I don't have like a release date or anything, but that's what I'll be doing. And I think the best thing is just to keep up with me. I have ShelahMarie.com or CurvyCurlyConscious.com. You can sign up for a mailing list whenever it's safe to produce retreats again. We're already looking at that on the horizon because we know we need it.
Need it.
So yeah, just follow me on socials and just keep up because right now we're in like the planning stages. So I'd say that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me and thank you for the space that you're creating. If I would have had this space at the beginning of my healing journey, I would be in a totally different place. So we are grateful. I'm happy that you exist. Thank you.
Thank you.